I'm a simple college student living alone in an apartment. I was very enthusiastic about the release of Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver here in the States. Because of this, I've purposely locked myself out of all media and the internet, aside from school purposes. That means no 4chan, no Reddit, no Bulbapedia, etc. As I was busy with the school year and being poor at the time, I wasn't able to buy Soul Silver on its launch date. However, after the school year ended, I ordered it on Amazon. However, it would take a week for it to arrive, so I decided that, during that time, I would replay my Crystal version on my Game Boy Color. Unfortunately, I remembered that long ago, my mom threw it away because I told her that my save went dead, and I was very upset about it at the time. She also threw away my Silver version, so all I have left is my Game Boy Color. As such, I set out to GameStop and bought a used Silver version, as it's the only Pokemon game that they have left for the GBC. I got it for $10, fairly cheap. I went home and started it up for a nostalgia trip. However, that's when things started getting bizarre. And that's most likely the reason why you're reading this. The Game Freak logo started up as normal, but it just froze there. I thought the cart errored or something, so I turned it off and on. But the same thing happened again. I tried pressing A and start over and over, along with all of the buttons. Eventually, the logo vanished, and there was a black screen for about 5 seconds. Suddenly, rather than going to the usual menu screen, I was already in the game in a previous saved file. Which was odd, as I was expecting that all of these carts would have been wiped by the poor battery. Either way, I wasn't complaining, as I would have chosen the continue option anyway to see what the previous guy did. First off, I checked his trainer information. His name was just Ellipses. He didn't have much originality. I checked his profile, and apparently he had 999 and 99 hours put into the game, with all 16 badges, maxed out Pokédollars, and all 251 Pokémon on the Pokédex. And seeing as he apparently had Mew and Celebi logged also, I'm guessing that he either used a Game Genie or was just a really hardcore Pokemon player back then. I checked his Pokemon to see what a badass team he had. And to my surprise, I saw 5 unknowns and a 6th Pokemon named Hurry. Now I'm thinking that this must be some cruel joke by the person who last played this game. But I decided to check the profiles of those Pokemon anyways. As expected, they were different letters of unknown, all level 5. I was a bit shaky with my unknown alphabet at the time, but I identified the word, spelled out, to be leave. And as for the 6th Pokemon, it turned out to be a Cyndaquil. Mind you, this is before there were individualized Pokemon icons. The Cyndaquil looked normal, but it was level 5 with only 1 HP left, and it only knew 2 attacks: Leer and Flash. I don't know why they named him Hurry, but at the time I just disregarded it. The most eerie thing was that, despite my volume being at max, none of the Pokemon had said their usual cries. Just pure silence. Having enough of the team, I closed it. I was parked at what appears to be a room inside Bellsprout Tower. However, for some reason, there were no NPCs around. Even more eerie was that the pillar in the middle didn't move at all, as if just leaning on its side. There was no music at all, and there was no ladder or exit. At least, I thought there wasn't. I walked around for a few minutes, but couldn't seem to find a way out. This was certainly not a room I've seen in Bellsprout Tower before. I tried checking my items for an escape rope, but my bag was completely empty. There wasn't even any wild Pokemon either. Finally, I managed to find a ladder, which turned out to be behind the pillar. The screen turned black, and the music finally started playing. I had a sudden chill, as I recognized that melody I heard to be the theme you hear when you listen to the radio at Alph Ruins, where the Unknown are at. I immediately realized that it wasn't a loading transition, but rather I was in a dark room and would need flash. Before I took care of that, though, I immediately checked my Pokegear to change the radio to something more pleasant. But it turns out that there is no radio card, or even a phone card nor time cards. There was only a map card in which Gold, or Ellipses from earlier, but I'll call him Gold from now on, was just walking in a midst of black. I recall that Cyndaquil has Flash, so I turned off my Pokegear and made Cyndaquil use it. I didn't see any message saying, "Hurry has used Flash," or anything like that. The room just became lit, just like that. And I soon regretted that decision. The room was a chilling blood red, with a linear gray path heading south. The ladder I used to go up and down was not there at all anymore. I had no choice but to head south. The screen got darker every 20 steps I made, and I counted it. It was every 20 steps on the dot. Until I finally made it to the end, which appeared to be a sign. I read the sign, which said, "Turn back now." Suddenly, I was prompted to answer yes or no, but there was no question asked. I chose yes, as I didn't know what it was asking me, and the screen went black again, making a ladder climb sound. The Unknown radio music stopped, and in a few seconds was replaced with the not-as-creepy Poke-Flute radio music. I was in another dark room, but I held my breath and used Flash again. Suddenly it said that Hurry has fainted, which was odd since I recall that there was no status conditions like poison on him, and I clearly wasn't in a battle. I quickly checked my Pokemon and saw that he's no longer in my party. In fact, after a bit of investigating, none of my Pokemon are there. Instead, they were all replaced with level 10 Unknown. I did the same thing as before and spelt out the Unknown. My then team of Unknown spelled out, "He died." Despite that, the room was lit to reveal myself in a very small room that appears to be only 4 squares big. The walls of that room were gray bricks, as if I was inside something that was hollowed out. Outside that room appears to be a bunch of graves, similar to the ones in Pokemon Red and Blue. I walked around that small room and pressed A, but nothing happened. I've already concluded that this was a clearly hacked game, and some sadistic individuals sold it to GameStop. However, my curiosity kept me going. I checked the trainer profile of Ellipses again, only to find out that the Sprite of Gold was missing his arms. He also seemed to be less smug, but rather seemed more sad and empty, in a way that I didn't know how to describe. For some reason, it also says that he has 24 badges, which was clearly impossible. After a few minutes of aimless wandering, my character suddenly spun and did the escape rope spinning animation. But instead of flying up, my character spun downwards, slowly, as if sinking. After that screen, the music stopped. And after finally landing, the overworld sprite of Gold is colored completely different now. Instead of the usual red color he dons, he appears completely white now, including his skin. It's as if he came straight from the colorless Game Boy games, placed straight into a colored background of the Game Boy Color. I checked his profile, and now, while as white as his overworld sprite, he also lost his legs, and has what appears to be bloody tears from his eyes. It also says that now he has 32 badges, which now started to disturb me as this change of numbers seems to represent something important. I also checked my Pokemon, which, this time, contains 5 unknowns and a level 100 Celebi without a nickname. The unknown are, this time, leveled 15, and spelled out dying. I checked the Celebi's profile. It was a shiny Celebi, except there was only half of the sprite. 1 leg, 1 arm, 1 eye. It only had 1 attack. Perish Song. The area I was in itself was the Sprout Tower, with the immobile pillar as before. Except everything is apparently red now. I walked north for what felt like forever. Eventually, I finally encountered some generic men and women NPCs. They were all lined up to the side, just facing the long, slantish pillar in the middle. They were also white, and nothing happened when I tried to speak to them. I kept on going north until eventually the pillar finally appears chopped off, with a transparent red in that spot. I went up to red, and without even pressing A, I was suddenly engaged and thrusted into a battle. The music started again, which sounded like the unknown radio music again, but playing backwards. Gold's battle back sprite matched his front one, with the bloody eyes, white skin, and lack of arms, while Red sprite was the same before on the GSC, except transparent. The text simply said, "Wants to battle," as if he has no name, and both of us only have 1 Pokemon each, which is weird as I could have sworn I had 6 with the unknowns. My shiny Celebi came out, conveniently with half a sprite, for the back sprite also. The shiny noise and animation was different, as the sounds it made sounded like multiple screech attacks being used consecutively. Red sent out a seemingly normal male Pikachu, except he's level 255, and his sprite seemed sad and had tears in his eyes. Rather than the usual fight, item, Pokemon run menu, I was only given the option to use the attacks. And since Celebi only had 1, I chose it. Naturally, since Pikachu was level 255, he went first. Pikachu used Curse, lowering his speed and increasing his other stats. I'm not even sure if Pikachu could use Curse. Celebi used Perish Song. In 3 turns, both Pokemon get KO'd. Not like I have a choice. At this point, it didn't even go back to the fight menu, as the battle just continued without me. Also note that there were no animations at all for some reason. Pikachu used Flail, which didn't do much damage despite his level and boost as his health was maxed. Celebi used Perish Song, Nothing happens as it was already used. Pikachu used Frustration. That did a ton of damage, knocking Celebi down to less than 10 HP. Celebi used Pain Split, which surprised me, as Celebi didn't even have that attack in the first place. Now Celebi and Pikachu have about 150 HP. Pikachu used Mean Luck. Not like that did anything. As expected, due to the effects of Perish Song, my Celebi fainted. Except in the text it said, Celebi has died. And instead of the ordinary drop-off the screen animation, the Celebi back sprite just vanished. For some reason, the Pikachu was still up, even with Perish Song, and it didn't count as my loss. Pikachu used one more different attack beyond the 5-attack limit. Pikachu used Destiny Bond. Afterwards it said, Pikachu has died, with a slow fade-out animation. Apparently, I was the winner, as the transparent red sprite showed up and said, nothing. At that point, I just freaked out, as that transparent red sprite was suddenly beheaded, leaving nothing but his transparent body. The battle then ended at that point and faded out along with the music. I was back in the overworld, with another change to the gold sprite. He was now as transparent as the red overworld sprite. I quickly checked Gold's profile, where this time the only thing that remains of him is his head, with transparent skin. The head was zoomed in a bit, showing a black void in his eyes. It now stated that he has 40 badges. I then backed out and checked my Pokemon. They were all level 20 Shiny Unknown, which when spelled out read, no more. I was at what I now know is next to the end. There was apparently no music playing, but for some reason I still felt like something was there that could be heard. I was back in my room in New Barktown. Maybe I finally get to play this game properly, but who am I kidding? I knew that sadistic person must have done something. I walked around my room to interact with things, as I was a bit afraid to go down the stairs to see what was awaiting me down there. Note I said walked, as while the background was moving, Gold was not moving his transparent limbs at all while doing so. Just floating, like those ghosts you see in Diamond and Pearl. As expected, the radio, computer, and TV did not work, so I had no choice but to go down the stairs. I ended up in the same lower-level room of my house. Everything appeared to be normal, except Mom was at home. After failing to interact with anything in this room, I decided to go outside. To my surprise, that door leading outside at the south didn't work, and instead I just walked straight through it into a void. I continued moving south to see what the heck was going on. My house vanished as I head south into the void. It was creepy as, when I entered the void, the outline on Gold's transparent sprite turned white to contrast with the pitch black. Eventually, I reached a white area and Gold's sprite turned black and transparent again. I continued south without thinking of stopping at all. After a long trek south, I finally encountered something. It was Gold's regular sprite. I talked to it, and he said, "Goodbye forever," and vanished. As that happened, it said, "Blank use nightmare," which at that point, I would not deny that being possible. Gold did another escape rope animation, spinning slowly downwards like before. I'm now back into that small, hollowed-out rooms surrounded by graves earlier. Or, at least, I say I was back there, as there's no sprite anymore. I tried to move around, but nothing moved. Not even that wall-bumping noise. I checked my trainer profile with absolutely no gold sprite left. It said I had 0 badges, and all the pictures of the Johto gym leaders at the bottom were replaced with skulls. I checked my Pokemon, which were all level 25 unknown. As expected, it spelled out a phrase that I dared to read. I'm dead. As soon as I went back to the overworld, the room I was supposedly in was covered with the same blocks as the walls. I then figured out what exactly that room was when the final text was said. R.I.P. ellipses. That room was a big grave, surrounded by other graves. Gold has already been dead. He died, presumably, a few years after he defeated Red. He was a young trainer who, despite his efforts in collecting so many badges in attempts at becoming a Pokemon Master, was still unable to avoid the inevitable fate of death. And his efforts were eventually forgotten by the next generation. I was unable to escape from that text, no matter what I pressed. I tried resetting the game, and the same thing happened. At which, I then finally decided to give up on that horrible nightmare. After that experience, I will never look at the gimmick unknown the same way again. They say that only the first generation has folktales and legends. But the second generation has shown me how unpleasant the truth can be. I eventually enjoyed Soul Silver immensely, but I still can't unthink of what that rigged game has told me.